ultimately, when you're by yourself on your Jack Jones, no one's around you, then you're going to meet yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you love yourself in that moment when you got no one or nothing to say, oh, I got a nice car, I got a nice this, or got a nice wife, or a nice husband, whatever it is, or got children. So it's about you and yourself at night.
So James, really pleased to have you here today. Welcome to the blacknetwork.co.uk. Why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Thank you, Aisha, for having me. Really appreciate it. So, as people know, those who watch my YouTube, my name is James Dean Sewell, aka I am JDS. Because there is other James Sewells out there, so I have to use my full
I
name
wanted
just to
to ask
distinguish
you.
myself. That there is,
Okay.
so I can't just use James Dean because there was a famous actor called James Dean, the Western movies. Can't use just James Sewell because there's quite a few of them in the world. So especially if you look on Facebook, so it's like okay, I use my whole full name so everyone knows there's a distinction.
Nice, nice, nice. So James, you have written two books.
Yes, I have.
You've written a book called The Art of Self-Love, which I'm
Yeah.
getting into at the moment and really enjoying. And you've
Okay.
written another book called The Abundant Life. With The Art of Self-Love, you talk about the eight, do you call
The
them
circle of self-love.
principles? The circle
There's a
of
circle.
self-love.
Yes, absolutely.
And you talk about eight principles in there. Well, how did you come up with those principles? You mentioned the Bible. Have you kind of extracted them from the Bible? Like, where have they come from?
Honestly, so as I said, one day I was listening to Jonna Van Zant, and she was talking about self-awareness and self-care, and she must have mentioned about three or four, to be in all honesty. Sometimes you are showing things to kind of inspire or to start the train of thought. Then when I start to really learn things and really dissect it and research it and write things, I'm inspired to realize, and that's where the concept comes of the circle of self-love.
Mm.
And it was like, so no one talks about the circle of self-love. That's something that I genuinely was inspired to write. I genuinely created that myself. And I want to take that all the way to the bank in that sense. Is this is your circle. So the self-love, like all roads lead to Rome, because back in the day, the way the roads were, they're all literally, no matter where you are, they're all led to Rome. That's why the saying comes, all roads lead to Rome. Now, in the circle of self-love, all avenues, all roles, all segments, all those principles lead to self-love in terms of loving you. So that's where it was. And it just obviously, just so people can understand what they are, the first one was care, which is an element of self-love. But then I'll go into each detail. What is self-care? How do you apply that? Then it's like self-awareness. What is that? How do you apply that? Then it was self-esteem, self-confidence. Sometimes they're made interchangeable. They're not. They're very different. And this is the thing. The more I was doing it, the more I realized there really is actually a difference in these things. But often we use the same words for different meanings, which is not accurate. So it's helping people to understand there's more to it. So I wanted to go through that. Then you had self-respect. Love that. You got self-reliance is another good one I love. To be fair, I remember being in the shower and I was literally, because I'm a spiritual person, I'm like, Lord, what do I do in this? And it's like the voice said, figure it out yourself. In the same morning when I was sat on my bedside, and then I started to write the art of self-reliance, learning to trust yourself to make decisions. You see? So that's like, so it's almost like self-trust, but self-reliance. And then the last two were self-control and self-discipline, which also are two different processes and two different approaches.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that I love the most about what you do, because first of all, you've kind of laid out this concept or this theory or this philosophy that's come from you. So you're clearly saying that you've been inspired, and some of them, Iyanla Vanzant, for example, you have come from her, but you've actually created this concept yourself. I love that. But what you're doing is you're really kind of providing a structure that people can kind of implement for them to use in their lives, and for them to kind of, learn to and practice the art of loving themselves. And I do love
Absolutely.
that. But I'd love to know a bit more about that. Tell us about you. Tell us about JDS.
So, well, to be fair, so the first book I was writing earlier in this year, to be fair, when I started the year, I didn't know I was actually going to write books. Okay. So based on my spiritual journey with my relationship with God, I know not everyone's Christian in the world, we don't some believe in whatever they want. But my journey led me to basically leave my queendom business behind, which what I told you before, lost a lot of money, but in the sense that I also got a promotion, which kind of gives money back. But at the same time, in the same month when I got a promotion, I was inspired to start writing. Okay. So every day I was literally writing a chapter. literally just inspired to write a chapter every single day. And in the evenings, after a certain period of time, I started to write up a chapter. That first book was Live the Abundant Life. Then in the moment of that, I was going through some certain situations in life, you know, heartbreaks and so forth as well, and certain challenges in the dating world that really was crushing me. And I remember my dad sending me a video, you know, talking about self-love. And then I remember he listened to a video by Jana Van Zandt about self-love. And she's probably one of the best to describe, because she's very good at what she does and articulating stuff. Because a lot of people, when they talk about it, it's kind of like, yeah, airy fairy. For me, I'm more of a personal development person. Like, okay, what are the steps though? What's the practicalities? So it so happens then I started to be inspired to genuinely write a book on self-love. But I didn't want it to just be like, oh, if this is how you love others, love yourself, to say, we know, I want it to really be a practical guide how to actually love yourself. And to be fair, so I wrote those two books within the space of 3-4 months. And I've actually written a third book. So I've completed, finished the first draft of my third book, which will be done, which I want to release at some point next year. So yeah, literally big things for 2024.
Love that, James. Really love that. You're doing a lot of good stuff. You said a few things in there that I was really interested in. First of all, you kind of mentioned that you were going through some things at the time. You were kind of
Yes.
facing challenges, and your dad's video inspired you to start writing. What was that? What's the link there that made you
Well,
start writing?
so many years ago, in 2018, I actually wrote a book. If you actually look on Amazon and put James and Sewell, there's a book called "The Seven Golden Keys to Hide This," to the Seven Golden Keys to Unleash Your Power, something like that. That was a book I wrote in
What do you mean something
2018.
like that? That's a book you wrote.
Yeah, no. The reason why is because I took that book off years ago.
Okay,
But
okay.
I was married then. I was going through a tough situation, and I wasn't ready for where God was trying to take me.
Mm,
Yet He was laying the foundations. So one of the things I talk to people about, and I want to mention this, is that there is a difference between your passion and purpose.
mm.
So passion usually is aligned with your traumas and pain. So, for example, you know, when we go for, especially women, when they go for breakups, who do they listen to? Mary J. Blige, because it's just, you get what I'm saying. So, music was always my passion, but it was never my purpose.
Mm.
So that's why the Lord has been pushing me towards my purpose, was I was genuinely gravitating towards my passion because of the pain and the challenges I've had through my life. So when it comes to writing the book, I wrote one many years ago when I was married, but it wasn't at the level it is needed to be where it is now. And I wasn't at the place where I am now in order to now bring it forth. So it's not like, oh, I just woke up and I'm just going to write a book and this is what it is. This is something that God has been building in me for quite some time. It's just that He had to course correct me. So this year has been a lot of course corrections. Hence, right, we're done with the music now. Now I lost so much money and I got too really annoyed. I was like, so now we give you the promotion, do this. And now you're writing books. And now it's like, start doing your videos. It's time to really start going out in a way to really. So I only speak from what my experience is.
Yeah.
That's why I love personal development. With other books, for example, you kind of need to have a different kind of a mindset to be able to tell a story that's engaging. Whereas self-help books is really about, this is my experience and this is how I can translate it to you, to basically not follow the same pitfalls, but also to experience the same successes as well. Doesn't matter what field it is, but you can do the same if you follow the same principles. Because I walk on principles, not necessarily methods.
And I wanted to ask you about that actually, because I've noticed you kind of refer to principles a lot. And you said just now that you write based on your experience, but you kind of write, it feels quite not theoretical, but you kind of get these foundations and these principles in place and you're teaching principles. Where does that come from?
So ultimately, it comes from God in the Bible. So there's principles or laws. So, for example, the law of gravity. You
Mhm.
can argue or not. You can argue, but if you go on top of a building and jump off, better know gravity's got to be real. Does you follow what I'm saying? You know,
Mhm.
you got the Newton's law of motion. Laws and principles are pretty much the same thing. They don't change. If I now I know man's laws, but even we in mankind, we understand those laws. So we have laws that if you rob, if you steal, you go jail, or you do some community service. You know, if you do grievous crimes, whatever the grievous crime is, you will pay due time because you've broken the law. Now, one could be quote unquote an accident, and the other one could be quote unquote intentional, but you still got to do some form of time because the law was broken. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what for me is the principle remains the same. All that's different is the method, because you're a different individual to me. So I can't tell you exactly how you need to do it. All I can tell you is this is the principle, this is the law, this is the foundation. You just need to build upon it that work in a way that works best for you. So I've learned that you can't paint everyone with the same brush. So if you go in the court of law and someone is a beggar on the street and they stole from the shop, that's got to look differently to someone that's got money but just decided to steal for fun. Does that make sense? So it's a different approach to say, look, these are the principles I would give you, the same as I've got the principles, but you choose, like I said, bear in mind, you choose. That's where the coaching comes in, because it's not about me telling you to do what to do. This is the principles, and then you choose how you want to apply it to your life. What's best, what works best for you, and that way you get the best result.
You mentioned that some of the principles of self-love are similar but different, and I completely got you when you were talking about self-control versus self-discipline being two completely different things that feel and sound the same. Tell me a little bit about that, because I love that.
So I love this one, because it's interesting. Years ago, I was actually, there's nothing new under the sun, and we're all developing. So years ago, I was looking at a concept, but I didn't quite conceive exactly what it was. So when I started to really write this book again, and then I had to really dig into what self-control is and what self-discipline. I started to realize there is a difference. So when you watch a lot of videos online, now YouTube's a very big platform, we got loads of videos. I love the motivational videos on there. And they say, I have self-control, or people say self-discipline, and they usually say it's the same thing. But if you look in psychology, there was a psychologist, a reference in the book. It's actually in the book in one of those two chapters. She actually references that it actually requires two different processes. I was like, yes, I knew it. So self-control, in short, is learning to say no. But here's the thing. If you're saying no to something, what does that also imply?
That you're saying yes to something else.
Exactly. So that saying yes to something else is self-discipline. So self-control is, I'm not going to do this because it's harmful to me. That's one process, because I'm learning to say no, one process. Segment A. Segment B, second process. Now that I'm saying no to this, I need to now transition to another process to now say yes to something else that replaces the very thing I say no to. Otherwise, you got to go back to it. Does that make sense? This is why I talk a lot about the power of decisions, the power of understanding that you have the control to create a positive life. You create positive changes to live the abundant life. You choose that. So when it's self-control, I'm not going to eat those desserts and sweets. Now, those who know me know I love my desserts. So I would say no to that. But what would I say yes to in order to make me feel like I haven't lost anything, but in fact, I've actually gained something better? This is the problem. So people say, oh, self-control, cool. So you stop doing something. Let's say you got that right. But you lack to understand that self-discipline is actually different, because we think self-discipline is saying no to something, when self-discipline is actually you saying yes to something. You're disciplining yourself to say yes to something, and you're controlling yourself to say no to something else. That is the difference. So in the book, I explain that they go hand in hand. It's like the yin and yang. But you need to have both of them. You can't just have self-control, and you can't just have self-discipline. Because if you only have self-control and there's no discipline to do something else, like go gym or whatever it is, guess what? You're only going to revert back to what you used to do before. And I'm sure, like yourself, myself, many of us have had that same problem of breaking a habit. Why do they say in order to break a habit, you need to start a new habit? But what they don't tell you is it requires two different processes. Does that make sense? So I wanted to go into the granular details in principle wise. This is exactly what it is. So just in a nutshell, I talked about two different films that Jim Carrey actually did. One was called Yes Man, and one was called Liar Liar. It's funny because the point of Liar Liar, like there was an underlying theme in Liar Liar, which is to have self-control to not lie, which is what his son's wish was. Yet the point of the other film, Yes Man, was for him to start learning to say yes to people so that he would give more. You see what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So one film was all about him having self-control, if you look at it, but the other film was all about him having self-discipline. If you really look
Self-discipline.
at, but I didn't realize until I was writing the book. I was like, wow, look at that.
These things
So
are all around us and we don't always
absolutely,
see them, but these messages and these learnings are
absolutely,
around us in ways that are not always obvious. I
yes,
think, you know
absolutely,
what, with those two sort of elements, the self-discipline and self-discipline, sorry, and self-control, those two, for me personally, are the ones that I battle with the most. And as you said, as humans, we're always going to have these battles, but I see the self-control I'm kind of okay with, but the self-discipline is that saying yes to the right actions and doing it consistently, that will for me impact a lot of other things, and it kind of sets
yes,
me on a path to doing the right things. Because you talk about the gym, for example, I think of something as basic as going to bed at a set time.
time, yes,
I can't
yes,
get myself to bed at a certain time. I will be so into what I'm doing. It could be working, it could be, whatever it is I'm doing. It could be something positive, but I don't have the discipline to stop doing one thing and say, no, this time is for sleep, for me to regenerate, for me
yes,
to, wake up and bounce up fresh and full of energy and creativity in the morning. And then that just kind of bleeds into other areas. But again, it's that self-control to stop what I'm doing and the self-discipline to start the next thing that's going to be
yeah.
positive. So I
And I
love
want to
that yin
jump on,
yang
I want to
comparison.
jump, I want to jump on that a little bit more. You do know it requires discipline to also learn to not to relax.
Yes.
I'm a very workaholic, so I'm on holiday now, and I'm literally fighting myself to take more time out to relax. Because what have you ever experienced going on holiday, taking time off from work, but come back to work actually more tired?
Yeah.
And you think, I wish I took time off. Why? It's because we're so conditioned in this life to just work and grind and grind and grind and grind. But that's not really loving you,
Yeah.
because you also need to take time out to rest and restore. And this is why it's about self-love, is doing what's best for you. So
Mm.
someone might say, well, I can live on 4 hours sleep a day. Good for you. But I need seven. You know, I need seven. Just
I
because I'm not
mean,
having 4 hours sleep doesn't mean I can't be a millionaire, doesn't mean I can't be wealthy, doesn't mean I can't do great things. It's just understanding your body, your personality, you are different. So I give you the principles, but you actually apply it. Now, I want to share something quickly regarding the same principle also, with the yin and yang for self-control and self-discipline, the
mhm,
same also applies to self-esteem and self-confidence.
mm,
Once again,
mm,
we get them mixed up. Self-esteem is about who you are, loving you for who you are. Self-confidence is knowing and loving the fact that you know you can perform at the highest level. So self-esteem is who you are. Self-confidence is performance. Once again, we get them confused. Oh, I lost my confidence. No, you may lose. So, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, and I think he's in the book, even if he doesn't score for 10 games, now there's times it's only a later life where he hasn't been scoring as much as normal, but for a period of time, he never loses self-esteem because he's still
yeah,
saying I'm still the best in the world. He knows that. Muhammad Ali, I'm
mm,
still the greatest. They
mm,
may lose confidence, but they never lose their self-esteem.
mm,
That's why they can get back up and get back on the game again.
mm.
So you realize they may have lost, but guess what? How do winners win? Okay, take a loss. Cool. Where do I need to do better? Great. My self-esteem's still there. Right. Cool. Work harder, do what I need to do. And guess what? Now I can perform at the greatest level and great. I'm a champion again, whether that be football, sports, or whatever.
How do you define self-esteem?
So self-esteem is really about cherishing, appreciating, and acknowledging you. It's about you. It's not the fact that you exist. The best way that I can put it is when you look at yourself in the mirror, are you happy with that person, loving that person? Not because of what someone else wants you to be, but because of who you are.
Mhm.
That is when you face yourself and say, I don't care. Well, of course, you care, but I don't care what anyone else thinks. I love me for me.
You don't need anyone else's validation,
Now,
right?
it's
Yeah,
all about me being me.
yeah.
And the reality is this, like, I believe God loves us, as a father and as a savior. So that for me is a theme of my ethos as a Christian. And it's not because of something outside of me, but because of who I am as who I am. Does that
Mhm,
make sense?
mhm.
So self-esteem is about loving you for who you are at your core, not for who someone else wants you to be,
Yeah.
because you're always sure you're different. Whereas self-controlled is all about you knowing that you have the ability to perform.
Mm,
So yes, you may not perform so well today, Like Kobe Bryant said that one day he was shooting like 30 shots or something like that, and he only did that 3 baskets. It was doing terrible. So he just went back, did more training, and back to doing goals, scored again. One thing I think sports people really demonstrate that a lot, whereas those who really perform well, Venus Williams, Serena Williams, they didn't win every title, but they never lost their self-esteem. They're like, all right,
Because
cool,
they
we
go
go
out
back,
in the first
come back
round,
and
isn't it?
smash it. Yeah,
Yeah,
come back and
exactly. They
smash
come
it.
back.
Literally.
Exactly.
How,
Yeah.
how many times have they both been together facing each other in the finals? And they're
Mm.
sisters. So they're like, well, okay, you won this time, I won this time, dog, I'm gonna get you next time. Healthy competition, but they never knocked the self. I can't say they never knocked the self-esteem, but you can see the self-esteem was always there. They knew who they were. All it is, they just acknowledged that they didn't perform as well that day.
Yeah.
So let's work on that and build the confidence, because you know what, they don't lose the confidence entirely because they know who they are, they know what they can do, and they just know that that was an off day, but next time, watch, we're gonna crack on it to make sure we get back on the bandwagon again.
I hear that. So you talk a lot about the abundant life, and
Yes.
like I'm so here for that. For me, I believe deeply at my core that all of us should be working towards living a life of abundance, whatever
Yes.
abundance means for us, because
Yes.
abundance will mean different things for different people, but
Yes.
none of us should be okay with living a life of anything less than abundance. Not perfection, but abundance of the things that really mean something to you.
Yes.
Which of these principles, in terms of the art of self-love, would you say is most important if you had to pick one to kind of getting you towards that life of abundance?
Oh, honestly, I don't think you can really pick one.
I knew you'd say that.
The reason why is the whole point. So, okay, if we're going to pick one, it's got to be the nucleus. Without self-love, you can never live an abundant life. I'll
Yeah.
just put it as simple as that.
Yeah.
Those things make up self-love, but if you remove one thing, so let's say you remove self-discipline, you won't discipline yourself to do the things you know you need to do in order to have the abundant life. You see? But if you remove self-control, you won't have the self-control you need in order to say no to things that do not serve your purpose of having an abundant life. Now, if I go to someone like self-awareness, you won't know who you are or where you are to know what you need to do to get to where you want to be. If I say self-care, you won't take care of you so that you have the full cup in order for you to perform and do the things you need to do on a day-to-day basis. So it doesn't matter which way you look at, you cannot really take one part of away. That's why I like it, because if you take something away out the pie, it's not a whole cake no more. It's a portion, you know what I mean? So self-love itself, what I would say, as I said before, is without true self-love, you can never truly live an abundant life. Now, going back to your question, what is that? What's an abundance like? Abundance, we know, is increase means more. But where I got the abundant life context is from John 10:10, where Jesus said, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy, but I am come that you might have life, and then you might have it more abundantly. Now, biblically, God talks about abundance, so I can't take credit for this. God talks about abundance in 7 dynamics of your life. You got the mental, you got the physical, you got the emotional, you got the spiritual. Now, a lot of people pretty much know we got all of those generally, but what about your financial as well? Now, when we talk about abundance, most people stop at finance. Oh yeah, I want to live an abundant life. They only think about money. But what's the use of having a whole lot of money, but you lost your family in the process?
Mm.
You have a whole bunch of films and entertainment and all that stuff that basically glorify, yeah, you done so great in one area of your life, but the other areas is dead. That's how you get people who are wealthy who will still be depressed,
Yeah.
or poor,
And also,
but still,
what do you want that money for? Because the money is just
yeah.
a representation of what you actually want. So if you're chasing the money and you're chasing the money because you want a lifestyle, then what does that lifestyle represent for you? If it's because you want the things that the money buys, is that the self-esteem, for example, that you're looking for? Is that the validation that you don't have because you don't have that self-esteem, going back to your concept of
So yeah,
the
that is true.
self-love?
You can't externally validate self-esteem truly. It might be for a period of time, but ultimately, when you're in by yourself on your Jack Jones, no one's around you, then you're gonna meet yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you love yourself in that moment when you got no one or nothing to say, oh, I got a nice car, I got a nice this, or got a nice wife, or a nice husband, whatever it is, or got children? Sometimes we try to put our self-esteem upon our children based on how well they love us and all those things. So it's about you and yourself and I. Now, of course, if you're a Christian or believe in God, then that would also stem from the vertical channels. Does that make sense? The other two aspects of the abundant life is your relational, which is where I've talked about relational, and your social. So you can say you're good in one area, but if you're not good in all seven, now no one's perfect in all seven. You just realize that, okay, I'm good in this area, but let me work on these other aspects. But one thing I do know is we lose sight of, oh yeah, I'm abundant, got money, yeah, but your relationships are trash. You know, we watch movies, and to be honest, it kind of irks me. You know, I love a film like, you know, Taken by Liam Neeson, great film. However, he lost his wife in the process.
Liam Neeson anymore, but yeah,
Fair enough.
it was
No, no.
great. Yeah.
Nevertheless, he didn't have a good relationship with his daughter, and he lost his wife in the process of him doing what he's doing for the country. But of course, he saved her in the end and all that stuff. But we look at the fact of, yeah, he's a, you know, bad man. You know, he's got all those skill assets to save the daughter and stuff. But the thing is, why was the relationship broken down in the first place? So you're doing all these great things, yeah, you know, obviously, you know, even whether it's a superhero, whether it's something else, why is it we think that you have, in order to gain something, we have to lose something else, or we have to sacrifice something else? That is the problem that I have. That's not truly abundant living, because, you know, you can see some people that when they get there, great, but when you got no wife or husband or no children now, then you got to start feeling a lot different and realizing that money no longer saves. You see what I'm saying? So that's
Or
where
whatever
it's about,
means something to
yeah.
them. Yeah,
As
whatever
it's
means
a
something.
holistic
Yeah,
approach. So it's not to say there's nothing wrong with going for money, because I believe in being wealthy. What
yeah,
it's just, it doesn't just stop there. You
yeah.
need to think about, but am I abundant in my mentally? Because obviously we're in a day and age where we're big on mental health. We're very big on mental health. But are you bundling in that area, or are you sacrificing your mental health just so that you can be
Yeah,
something else? Does that make sense? So
yeah.
it's a holistic approach that I'm trying to basically convey. Once again, I give you the principles. You choose how you want to apply them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're coming up on time a little bit, and I just wanted to ask a little bit about your the training work and the coaching work you do. Yeah, tell us about that.
So in the new year, well, not starting in the new year, but yeah, I'll be looking to do some workshops, whereas I'll be coaching training on literally, I won't tell you the title because they'll be kind of giving away, but literally living an abundant life, you know. But all three books will be in there, because my third book, like the ethos of that will all be in it. So that's what I'll be doing. And it's for professionals, but quite frankly, yeah, professionals in that. But I also want to do like seminars, like show seminars for like one specifically for live the abundant life and go through those principles, and the other one specifically for the art of self-love, and like, you know, literally do another one as well. The third one will be based on the principles of my third book. So each book will have like its own seminar, like just a one-off like event, like show, talks, all that stuff. However, I do want to do 3-day weekend training so that people can really come and really have personal development time so that they can be their best. Because I believe in being more so that you can do more, so that you can have more. But a lot of people stop there. But it's so that you can also give more. A lot of times we give of our what's in our cup. So if you have a cup, right, and then you've got it half full, the reason why we have burnout is because we are using our resources to the point we're depleting. What you should actually have is your cup should be full, and you give of your overflow so that you can help people to glow. That's literally how I put it. So you don't give of your base resource, your reserves, your full cup. No, once you're full and you're good, now of your overflow. So for example, if it's money, you give to other people because you got a lot. You're not giving your rent money to someone else. It's a logic that, oh no, I got money to spare. Here you are to help and support. Just a simple example, but that's giving of your overflow to help someone else rather than giving of your actual what you need, because that's when it becomes detrimental.
Like when they say when you're in a plane, isn't it? You don't put someone else's what do you call
The mask, yeah,
the air mask, you don't put it
that's
on
mask.
someone else
Well,
first. You
first,
put
yeah,
it on yourself or on your kids.
yeah,
You put it on yourself first so that
yes,
you're
and then
able
someone
to
else.
help them sufficiently.
Exactly.
It's kind of long-term thinking as well, sustainable thinking. So yeah, really, really love that. And James, where can people find you?
Um, People can find me on YouTube with just James Dean Sewell. I don't. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm mostly at for James Dean Sewell as well. And yeah, I might grow the Instagram at some point, but it's mainly those two platforms, literally. But what I wanted to quickly say, if I can, I apologize. Literally, I literally nearly forgot. one thing I've learned, the more you love yourself, the more you have the capacity to love someone else. I remember you mentioned something like, okay, how do you transpire that? So, I know that Jesus said, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. He says, love others as you love yourself. So I realized the more I'm on my self-love journey, the more I have the capacity to love and support other people. Is because I'm filling myself up. What happens is if you don't learn to do it for you, how can you truly do it for someone else?
So agree with that. I think even if I think about it as a parent,
Yes,
those days where I'm tired, where I'm burnt out, where I'm hungry, where I'm fed up, where I'm frustrated, and then kids are coming to me for basic kid stuff. It's
yes,
jarring. It
exactly.
it gets too much. But where I'm in a good place, I'm full of love. I have an abundance of love to give. I've got all the patience in the world for their nonsense.
And
It's
there
still
you go.
nonsense
Exactly.
because that's what kids do. But I've got all the patience in the world for it, and I deal with it in a manner that is where I'm in control and where I'm still giving them life lessons, where it's teaching them and giving them something. So yeah, I completely agree. And I did say I wanted to ask, because the kids of the next generation are so important
Oh,
for us
yes.
to be bringing them up in the right way. So I would love to know, when it comes to the art of self-love and the abundant life, how do we teach, especially the self-love part,
Love it.
how do we teach that to our kids?
So literally, every single day I'm with my kids, and several times, who's daddy's favorite boy? Who's daddy's favorite girl? Who's handsome boy? Who's a strong boy? Who's a beautiful girl? Who's a smart girl? I'm instilling them affirmations. I can't teach. They don't know what affirmations is. I'm just instilling the principles of it. So they always have that love and confidence with them. That's why people love how my kids are. They're so loving and caring because we don't show them toxicity. We show them love. Like in the first years, yours are older than mine. You know that the first 7 years are the years where they don't really have the understanding. So you have to show them monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Mm.
So from that is like, oh, who's daddy's favorite girl? Me. Who's daddy's favorite boy? Me. So what they may not realize, but I know, and people gather that, hold on a second, I'm actually building in them to say, yes, daddy loves me, mommy loves me, right? God
Mm.
loves me, etc., etc. Right, I'm valuable, not because. And also, like the other day, my son was still. Obviously, I was having a phone conversation with someone, and you get the little email because I bought him a film on Amazon. Now, I didn't think that he's going to go back on Amazon and end up buying another film, especially without my permission. Now, all I see was a little ding, like I'm for flicking, huh? Who's ordering a movie for £16? I don't pay £16 for no movie. And even the movie I bought for him was on sale. That's why I bought it. Not that was
Mm.
it's not that £60 a lot. It's the principle that no, I'm not paying £60 just for one little movie. I'm not
100%.
doing that. I'm not doing that. Right?
I'm with you on
But
that.
so I spoke to his mum. She's like, oh, sorry, da 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 da. I said, look, tell him daddy loves him, but try not to do it again. And that's it, because it's not about berating them and all that stuff. But what I realized, because we may grow up certain ways, but the more I learn to love myself, the more I can pour into him and say, I'm going to do for him what I wish was done for me in terms of how to respond. Then they can realize, and it's funny because their mom thought it was the daughter that done it, but my son actually owned up.
Mm. Mm.
Now, normally we want to hide things,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that he's at the comfortability to know that he can own up, because I'm not gonna like berate him and
Yeah.
start a whole bunch of repercussions. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so important that we kind of bring our kids up to know that they're loved. And one of the things that I'm working on with mine as well, when you talk about just kind of giving them those constant affirmations, is you can give them all of that armor. The world is, with some of our kids, is going to try and take that away from them.
hmm.
So instilling that confidence, reinforcing that confidence in our kids from home throughout their lives is so important. Yeah, so I've taken a lot of things away from your book, and I want to, now that I kind of have that structure, I actually think I'm going to be applying that and making sure that I cover each of those principles when I deal with my kids. It just kind of helps to have that structure. So yeah, really, really pleased about that. Really grateful for you sharing that with the world. Yeah, just want to say thank you, huge thank you for joining me today. I would love for you to come back and continue the conversation with me, especially when your third book comes.
Sure.
Any
Yeah.
hints for the title?
Well, one thing I will say, the third book is solely about rejection, and I think I'll just stop with that. I won't tell you the title, but it's about rejection.
Okay.
So yeah, I look forward to that book Rejection come out. I reckon it's got to be something that will literally be a straight arrow, man. Literally a straight arrow. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. It's something that relates to every single person, regardless
Yeah,
of what you do, you know, what life you live. We've all
and
experienced, it's touched us all.
absolutely,
So yeah.
and it's in every aspect of life. So if you're in business, especially if you're in sales, we know that, especially yourself, like especially yourself.
Yeah.
And another one is dating world. So I transfer a little bit into that because it's look, people need to understand, and I'm not trying to go too much, but I want to mention this point. Rejection is inevitable.
100%.
Just end it there. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
The difference is, as there's a saying, is not what happens to you, is how you respond. And I leave that there with that.
James Dean Sewell. It has been a pleasure. I definitely look forward
Likewise.
to having another catch up.